the Hallmarkies podcast, and we are here for another episode of our romantic reading wrap up that we like to do every month. We talk about a book that we're featuring, and then we share the other books that we have been reading, and it's so much fun. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Bree is here.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm good, girl. We're countdown into Christmas, aren't we?
Yeah. Yes, it's very exciting. We had our first weekend of movies this last weekend, and it was pretty epic. It's a pretty good start.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I have not, as we'll talk about in our reading wrap up section, I have not been able to read that much this month because I have been extremely busy with I've had 2 trips this month. I went to New York and I went to LA, so I'm just like crossing the country.
Yeah.
And it was really fun, but I've just been very, very, very busy.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
been a busy season of life, but I mean, I hope you enjoyed it, enjoyed that travel.
It was so fun, and I got to attend the New York Film Festival, and then I got to attend the Animationist Film Festival in LA, and that was really fun. I mean, anyone who knows me knows I love animation, and so it was just like, oh, this is my home.
Yeah.
And it was really cool. When I was in LA, when I was in New York, I went to the New York Christmas store, Christmas in New York store, I think it's actually called. And it was incredible and amazing. And so I thought, oh, maybe they have something like this in LA. And so I'm looking, and there's this store called the Almost Christmas Prop Shop. And I'm like, ooh, that sounds interesting. And they didn't have anything on the Google about it being like private or, whatever. And so I took like an Uber over there, and I show up, and they have these like big signs like no public access, and I'm like, oh shoot. And this is a good example of it's easier to ask forgiveness than permission.
Yeah.
And they were so nice. They were obviously like slightly annoyed, but still nice. And took me around, and I got to see, it was so cool. I got to see all like the Christmas trees getting decorated for shoots. I got to see the different gingerbread houses and snowmen and Santas, and it's just rows and rows of ornaments and stockings, and I mean, just anything you could imagine that you might need in a Christmas movie. They had rows and rows of them. It was really cool.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
So, but please, if you're listening, do not bother them. Don't go over there if you're in LA, because then they'll be really annoyed with me. But it was cool. And anyway, so that was a fun experience on the Hallmarky side to get to do. And so it's been a crazy month for me. But we are talking about On Christmas Avenue this month, and by Ginny Baird. And why don't you explain a little bit about this book, about what goes on in this book?
So I did the thing that people should not do. When we decided we were going to read this one for October, I read it like as soon as it came out, and it came out early in October. So here we are now at the end of October, and I'm like, it's been weeks. But the gist of the book, people, is a young woman, I think her name was Mary. Mary travels to this small town for work. Basically, her mission is to help the town's economy. I think like the economy's kind of going down a little bit, and she's sent in to kind of help them get back in gear. And she has this idea of doing a parade. And of course, the love interest is the sheriff, and he gives her some kickback. And that is what I can remember from this book.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you did a very good job.
Thank you.
um, yeah, I just I kind of wish, I guess, that I had Ginny here because she is a good writer and she did a good job in many ways, but I just fundamentally did not understand Mary as a character, and I just didn't understand this whole plan of like putting on a parade to make money. Like what?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
people watch a parade for free. Like
Yeah.
who spends money on a parade? Like
Nobody.
what? It just didn't make sense that this would be like, and I can't think of anybody ever that is like, I'm going to go travel to this place to see this parade. I mean,
And
maybe the
parades
Macy's
don't
parade
last
in
that long. They don't last that long in small town, America.
yeah,
Like,
like like I can see it being a morale booster, but being this big like tourist thing, and I basically, it made me feel like Mary was a crazy person. The whole
okay,
book, and I was
first,
just
I just have to say, we don't pick these books with the intentions of bashing them. Like, we go into them wanting them to be possibly a new favorite book, but sometimes we have a lot of thoughts, and I felt the same. Okay, I was thinking a lot about this because I got your message. You were like, you really gave this a 4 star, and it's like a 3.75, Rachel. I just rounded it up on Goodreads, okay? So here's my thing. Okay, Ginny Baird has written a lot of books, and it looks like the majority of her books, a lot of them are holiday romances. So the
Mhm.
woman knows what she's doing. And she,
Yeah.
like you said, she is a very strong writer. I love her book, like The Matchmaker Bride, and the book prior to that, The Duplicate Bride. Like, she's good. So I was thinking a lot about our conversation with Bryn Donovan, and especially like having read Terry Wilson's Royal book and Cara Dad Pinero's South Beach Love. We know Hallmark is they're pivoting. The publishing houses, they're looking for new stuff. So I was like, okay, the publishing world, what we're getting now are books that were written like 2 years ago, maybe even a
Mhm.
year ago. Hallmark's kind of the exception because we know Bryn Donovan will turn books around in like 6 months if she has to. So I was like, okay, this doesn't feel like it's in the same wheelhouse of Terry Wilson's Royal book. I keep blanking on the title. I'm sorry, but the one that came out this summer,
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it's in the same realm of those books. It feels very old school, classic Hallmark. And I just, I expected more from Jenny. I don't know. I don't want
Mhm.
that to sound super negative, but I also feel like there's an audience that wants that. And if for that audience specifically, they're going to absolutely love this book. But for us who watch the movies all the time, who try to read as many of the books as we can, it just doesn't feel like anything new, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely, hits all those sort of tropes of like the party planning and the opposites attract, and those kinds of things. The save the town, all of those. If you like a save the town, then you'll enjoy this. And I guess I wasn't like miserable reading it. Like it was fine in many ways, but I just fundamentally didn't understand
How
the
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 parade was going
the
to
main
save the town.
character. I just didn't get it. Like I
Yeah.
just kept thinking, and then she keeps going into more and more debt, and then they're like upset
Yes.
with her because she's like $30,000 over
For some
budget, and I was like,
t-shirts? Was it t-shirts, Rachel? I think it was shirts or something. Yes.
and then they're like, I usually give a quote and from the book, and this one it's Evan, and he's like, Mary, you need to consider what you're asking of Clark Creek. Your parade will stretch its resources too thin, and just like an overstretched rubber band, it could completely snap. And I'm like, that is accurate.
Yeah.
And then she turned to him fully, and she turned to him and said, or bounce back. And I'm like, what? That doesn't make any
That's the
sense. I
reason that
don't
you're
get it.
there. You're there to help them bounce back, and you're making it worse.
Yeah, you're literally going into debt. Like, I just don't understand how a parade, I could understand a concert. I could understand a benefit. I could understand, like, the idea is supposedly this parade that's being planned with not that much notice. So it's not like people can, if people were going to travel for a parade, it's not like they'd have that much notice to like plan their trips or whatever. Like, I just don't see any world in where a parade is like a big tourist draw. And that's what she was supposedly like feeling, and that like people were gonna buy a bunch. She had t-shirts and what was it? There was another souvenir. I can't think of
I can't think of it
that
either. All I
she was gonna
remember is the
sell.
t-shirts. Yeah. I remember the
T-shirts.
shirts.
And yeah, I don't know. It was just it was just like
It really
Mary.
kind of like it fantasizes small town America. And like I said, there's an audience that wants to see that, that wants to read that. But then there's also people that are like, you're kind of insulting my intelligence. As somebody that lived in small town America and went to the Christmas parade every year, it was free. It lasted
It's
maybe 30
free.
minutes, depending on where you were standing, in downtown, because we had a downtown.
Yeah.
And then you get back in your car and you go home. People weren't driving necessarily from like Kansas City to our
Yeah.
small town in Sedalia to watch the
Yeah.
parade. They didn't care. So
Like a Christmas parade is a chance to like, you know, cheer on the local fire department and like the high school band and, stuff like
yes.
that. And even if you were going to do something, say more, I don't know, like Macy's, Thanksgiving parade, like something bigger, which this is a
Mhm.
small town, so they weren't going to do. It's still like even I think even Macy's, it's not like a big money maker for them. Like they're not.
Right.
It's
It's
not, in no world is that like
anything.
saving anything. Like it's just like a fun tradition that they do, and that gets enough of a publicity thing, I think, probably for them to be worth it. And
I would have
but
rather the story just been about her coming in to help a town, maybe revamp the parade. Like if you want the parade to be the focus, fine,
mhm,
but like to think that we're going to believe that it's going to financially contribute to the town is like, where, girl? Like we never
yeah,
even had to pay for parking. You just parked somewhere
yeah.
and watched.
Well, and it's like, to the book's credit, there are like tons of people, including Evan, who are constantly telling Mary like this is a terrible idea, and and yet she's just like, well, you're just being a Grinch. Why are you? I'm like, no, they're actually making sense. Like, what is wrong with you?
I was thinking today before we got on, I was like, how was this pitched to, like, just using
Yeah.
Bryn as an example. I don't even know if it was pitched to Bryn, but like what was the pitch for this, and who decided like, oh, that sounds new and refreshing, because it's like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
What other
Yeah.
books were passed up for this one?
Yeah, and it hurt the chemistry between Evan and Mary
It
because
did. It did.
because you're just kind of like, why would he want to be with this crazy person?
Yeah.
Like, what is going on? Like, I don't know. They just, yes, their opposites attract, but they just didn't have any chemistry because she was just kind of unreasonable.
And let me tell you, I mean, I don't want to spoil it for anyone that hasn't listened, but like you mentioned earlier, she ends up being like $30,000 in debt for one specific thing towards the
Yes.
end of the book. And they still manage to raise $30,000 in a matter of, I don't know, hours,
Yeah.
maybe like a day. And I'm like,
Mhm.
girl, you cannot, nobody's, that's just, it was not
Yeah, it's
realistic
like a
to me.
Kickstarter kind of thing all of a sudden that they
Yeah.
do, and they have all these benefactors who show up like offering $10,000, and okay,
Yeah.
that's a solution, but it would still have been better to have not had the parade and done the Kickstarter to save the town, and then you wouldn't have, like, you would have full profit instead of paying for the parade, and then whatever profits left over.
Yeah. I really wanted to love this book.
I
And there
know,
were
I
parts of it that
know.
that made me happy. I mean, Mary can be a little frustrating. You have to appreciate her cheerfulness and her optimism and her positivity, but it like it feels very much a fantasy, like this idea, this fantastical idea of small town America, which, you
Mhm.
know is great, fine. But you can't insult the intelligence of the reader either. And I just felt a little bit like, this is a stretch, girl. We're stretching it
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. I mean, and I grew up in a small town, Middletown, Maryland. You can't get more small town than that. And we had parades. I don't think we ever had a Christmas parade, but we had the town Middletown Pride Middletown Day. And then we had uh, I think a 4th of July. We had a parade. Yeah, I do feel like you tend to have parades more for patriotic kind
Yeah.
of things is when like
Mhm.
Memorial Day or 4th of July, things like that. Like we have in Utah, there's Days of 47, which is for the that's in August, and it's for a Pioneer Day when the original pioneers got to the Salt Lake area. And so there's that. But I feel like you do have sometimes Christmas parades, and that's fun.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it probably would have been, I think, more effective if they just got rid of the save the town element
Save the town
at
element.
all, and
Yep.
they were just planning the parade. And
Mhm.
you could have him be the sheriff who's having to deal with the crowd control and the whatever, and just being kind of annoyed about that, and her being super excited about planning the parade. Like that would have been enough. Adding this element of it's going to make all this money, I don't
And
know.
that would
Maybe
have
I'm
been
just too
sweet. That would have been
logical.
sweet. It would have felt like a nod to this small town American tradition that we don't want to go away. Because
Yeah.
that's one of those things that could go away and you don't realize that you miss it until it's gone, and you
Mhm.
didn't appreciate it until it's gone. So it
Yeah.
had the potential to really shine the light on that. But adding in that whole it's gonna save the town financially, it was like it just, oh God, it didn't
Yeah,
work.
it was. I mean, it could have been like the Hallmark movie with Anna Lynn McCord. I think it's called just the Christmas Parade or something like that. Where I think she's a reporter in that, and she goes to cover the Christmas parade. I think that's what it's called. Uh,
I think you're
and I
right.
mean, of course, you've had like Miracle on 42nd Street, which is also involves the parade. Uh, but yeah, it is called the Christmas Parade. I got that right.
Yep.
Um, they
2014-ish. Yeah.
Yeah, that could have been fun. So yeah, that's the thing with reading is some you win some, you lose some, and it's
Yeah.
fine. And hopefully if you have read this book and you enjoyed it or didn't enjoy it, whatever, let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear what you think. And you uh, keep trying and keep hopefully the next book will be our favorite.
Yeah. Our fingers are crossed. And we
Yes.
love Jenny. We love Jenny.
Yes, I
you know.
really yeah. She is a good writer, and she had some fun little moments with the characters, and you're right, like Mary is a very positive character. It's a very positive book, that I guess if you just sort of focus on like a town coming together, there are those positive aspects.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So there we go. I'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It is the good folks over at Up Faith and Family. Right now, you can stream not only seasons 1 through 13 of Heartland on Up Faith and Family, but also every episode of season 14. Season 14 is only available right now in the US on Up Faith and Family. So check out this great streaming service that you can get. Visit upfaithandfamily.com for lots of great programming and to sign up for a free 2-week trial. That's upfaithandfamily.com. Let's talk about other stuff we've been reading. So because I have been so busy, I only have 2 new books that I read this month.
Okay.
Or that I not necessarily new books, but I only had 2 books that I read this month, aside from Christmas Avenue. So I thought it would be fun to talk about a couple of just my favorite books.
Okay.
And so we'll be doing that. But the first book that I read is This Is Christmas by Tracy Ann Dreen. This was for the interview I did with her. And this is her first book, and she's a screenwriter for Hallmark. She actually has 3 movies coming out this season, which she's just amazing. She managed to write her first novel and 3 screenplays, and I actually think she even did a rewrite on a 4th one. It's just incredible. And this was really fun. This is a young adult novel. It kind of is similar to along the lines of like Dash and Lily, or the one with by John Green that
Let
is
It
Christmas
Snow.
themed. Yeah, let us know. And so it's kind of along those lines. It's basically about a girl who is going to boarding school in Connecticut, and it's all kind of been a mess. It didn't turn out the way that she thought it would. She thought it was going to be like Harry Potter. But yeah, I mean, she thought it was going to be different, and she was always like the top of her class. And she goes to the sporting school, and she's struggling with her grades and struggling with. So she's thinking, I'm gonna not go back when she goes home for Christmas. Well, one of her friends from or schoolmates uh, ends up coming to her small town because she had told him that this was like the ultimate Christmas destination. It's actually called Christmas Oklahoma in the town, and so he sees like the website which she like added to, and anyway he gets kind of tricked and he goes there and it's like, oh, this is not at all what I thought. And he's from he's from the UK, this guy. And anyway, so they she's kind of his like tour guide, and obviously like a relationship kind of blossoms, and but between the 2 of them, and they were really cute. I really like Finley and Arthur. I really liked them both. They were fun. And then you have her grandma that has a kind of a cute a little relationship that I won't spoil. That's surprising. You also have um, just other stuff with her best friend when she comes home is dating her ex-boyfriend, and so that's kind of there's sort of conflict there. And I liked it. I liked the characters. I liked the sort of the Christmas feel, the layers of characters, so it wasn't just your two. I liked that it wasn't like these angsty teens, because that's not my jam. And but they felt authentic. They felt like real characters to me. It definitely has like a little bit of language and like a little bit of uh content that you might not see in a pure Hallmark book, but I found that kind of refreshing, to be honest. So I definitely recommend it. I think if you like YA fiction, if you like Christmas stories, I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
Have you got
I
to read
think
this one?
I'm reading it now. I
Mm.
think why some YA Christmas can just be so good. I really liked John Green's book Let It Snow, and then Netflix adapted the movie, and I was like, "Oh, I like this way better than the book." So
Oh yeah.
yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds so good.
I need to give that movie another shot. I think I was a little bit just overwhelmed when I watched it, and
Mhm.
it was a little too teenage angsty for my
Yes.
taste.
Yes.
But I think I should give it another shot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't read that book, but I've actually heard that from a couple people that like they upgraded it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. So, yeah, you'll have to let us know. I guess next month, you'll have to let us know what you think,
Yeah,
and
because
that you
I
finished.
do not read YA as much as I used to. It was
Mhm.
like all I read probably like 6 or 7 years ago, and I just kinda grew out of it, and I
Yeah.
may read like 1 a year, and it honestly is usually something holiday-ish. So, I
Mhm.
think last year it was like 10 Blind Dates or something, I can't remember, but it was really cute. So, yeah,
Mhm.
I'm enjoying Tracy's.
Yeah, I really liked it, and I yeah, my probably my favorite uh favorite YA novel of recent memory is, and I think I maybe mentioned on this show before, is Finding Audrey from Sophie Kinsella. I absolutely loved that book. I thought it was so funny. And my favorite part about it was that that the mother, like, she reads the newspaper every day, and she always finds these like upsetting upsetting stories, and then she like fixates on them in a way, and it just it reminded me of my mom, not with a newspaper, but she would always find these studies and be like, oh no, I read a study whatever it was, and so we gotta change the way we're doing things because, oh, I read a study, and we're like, oh no. And
Mom's been
she
reading studies again.
yeah. And she in the book, she reads this report about video games and their effect on teenagers. And her son, one of the characters, is like trying to prepare to be in like a tournament, like a video game tournament. And and at one point, the mom has like his laptop and is holding it outside the window. He's like, no. You're like, it was hilarious. And if you're looking for a really good YA, and it also deals like with themes of mental illness and family, and I loved that book. But anyway, so yeah, there can be some good stuff in the YA. I'm usually not as big into like the fantasy
Yeah.
side of things, but I do enjoy one on occasion. But anyway, what have you been reading?
Well, my first one is Missing at Christmas by Katie Richards. This is a romantic suspense novel taking place during the holidays. This woman named Addie is an attorney in New York, I believe, and her sister has moved to this small town, and she's, I hate to say gone missing, but she's missing. And she travels to the small town. This gentleman that she met at the wedding from the characters from the previous book. This is a series. It can be read as a standalone though. They run into each other as she's basically being attacked on the street. Like he sees her from a block away and swoops in and saves the day. That's like the only time he has to save her, though, listeners. She can hold her own, but she just, it's eerie, small town setting. She's not really getting the assistance that she wants from the local sheriff. I mean, they're just like young girls come through and then they pack up and move all the time. But she just really believes like her sister would not just pack up and move and not tell her. So it's them trying to figure out where she is, what she's been caught up in. It's um, set at Christmas. I mean, it's set during the holidays. Christmas isn't like a huge big deal, but just to shake things up, if anybody wants sort of a mystery set during the holidays, I really recommend it. She's such a good
Hmm.
writer. It's a diverse story. I really love seeing people of color in romantic suspense novels. I feel like you don't see too much of that. And the previous book is called Pursuit of the Truth, and it was one of my favorite of the year. So definitely keep an eye out for Katie Richards. This one is called Missing at Christmas, and the next book has already released. It came out. Missing at Christmas came out in September. Christmas Data Breach came out in this month in October. So there are 3 books out there you can get your hands on and read. She's fantastic. So what's your
That
next
sounds
one?
fun. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my next book that I read is called Tacos for Two by Betsy St. Amand. This I also read for the interview I did with Betsy. And this book, it took me a little bit to get into it, if I'm honest. But once I did, it was really fun. It's not just in a sort of homage to You Got Mail. They literally she quotes it on frequent, she quotes the movie on frequent
Interesting.
through
That's
the, yeah,
interesting.
through the book. And it's basically about this woman who is running this taco truck, and this food truck, and she can't really cook that well, but she's hired. She has somebody who cooks the food, but there's this guy from this like rich family who his dream is to be a chef, but he is kind of like forced into being a lawyer because of his family. But he kind of gets a deal where if he wins this contest, then they will support him in becoming a chef and owning his own truck and food truck. And so he likes her food, and well, he thinks it's her food, and so he hires her to be his like to teach her. He hires her to teach him to cook, and here she can't really cook, so she's getting the instructions from the cook on the truck. And anyway, so you've got kind of they're rivals, but they're also connecting on it's like social media. I think it's been a little while since I read it, but anyway, they're connecting. They don't really know it, so there's that element as well. And then, of course, when she finds out that he is her competitor in this festival, then she gets upset. And I don't know. I thought it was cute. It was fun, and if you're like a foodie, then you enjoy it. And I really enjoyed talking to Betsy. She's super fun, super nice. So if you are looking for a foodie type book and you want to break from Christmas stuff, then that's
Yeah.
gonna be a
I
fun one.
love the name of that, Tacos for Two.
Yeah, it's cute. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What's your next one?
Okay, I have three more, so I'm going to go through those really quick. So, first up, I have The Christmas Fix Up by Barbara Ankrum. I have like, oh my gosh, five or six arcs from Thule Publishing. So, Boyfriends of Christmas Past that we just watched this past weekend
Mm-hmm.
was a remake of one of their novels. They are killing it. So, this one was a guardian angel romance. So, it's like paranormal light set during Christmas. The guardian angel finds out she has to come to Earth to basically help this single dad, well, widower, find a new wife because the council is like his wife dying was a mistake. She was supposed to live like another 43 years. You have to go down there and fix it. And so she's been the guardian angel to his little girl, and she comes down, and they meet. He doesn't know she's a guardian angel. Obviously, have to keep that a secret. And this is their romance. It's a forbidden romance. She's not supposed to fall in love with him. He's not supposed to fall in love with her. Her mission is to find him someone else. But the person that she finds is, herself. And it's them, her trying to figure out how to get past all of these rules and the fact that she's an angel and all of that. And it was just unapologetically a happy book, you guys. So if you want something fun and Christmassy with a little bit of a paranormal ish twist, that is The Christmas Fix Up by Barbara Ankrum. And then I read another Thule release, Jingle Jammies by Robin Neely. This was so much fun. It is about a gentleman that he's like a fashion designer, but he does Christmas pajamas. And his latest pair of pajamas literally catches up in flames on the internet. This social media influencer, who is the daughter of the owner of the company he works for, is like modeling them, and they catch on fire. So it's one of those. She tells him, "You need to go home and immerse yourself in Christmas and." Just get inspired again. And I love stories where somebody has to immerse themselves in Christmas, guys. I love a project. And so he's on his way home. He does not take the route that his mother tells him to for safety, as men do. And he finds himself on the side of the road. And this is the meet cute. The heroine in the book is literally like a tow truck driver. She helps her dad with, the helping doing car mechanic stuff. And this is their romance. It was so, so much fun. And the last one is Trusting the Rancher with Christmas by Carrie Lynn Webb, another Christmas romance, you guys. Loved this one. The heroine is like literally driving from Chicago to Texas, and the meet cute is the hero sitting on a horse as his cattle crosses the road, and she's like held up. She's really hungry. She has to use the bathroom. It's like, please, can you get your cattle across the road any faster? And this is their romance. He's a single dad. There's something about those single parent romances that I just really enjoy. And it was cute. So that's Trusting the
Mm-hmm.
Rancher with Christmas by Carrie Lynn Webb.
Oh,
That
those
is
sound
my
really
roundup,
good.
guys.
Very good. You did that very good.
I did it. So
I
what
actually
about your
forgot.
favorites?
Well, those all sound really fun. I think Jingle Jammies
Yep, yep,
That
yep.
sounds really good.
It was cute.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just the title alone, I love.
He was so offended. He's like, "Why do you keep calling them jammies?" And she's like, "That's what they are." Like, he was so offended.
That's cool. Yeah, those sound good. I forgot to put on the spreadsheet one book that I did read. It was at the beginning of the month, and so I forgot. But it's actually really fun. It's called Bookish and the Beast by Ashley Poston.
Ooh.
And I really enjoy this whole series that Ashley has done, where there's Geekerella and the Princess and the Fangirl, and they're all fairy tales that are set in the world of this Comic Con kind of thing. And it's very, very, very clever. Geekerella is still the best. It was really fun. And this book, Bookish and the Beast, well, all of these books our good friend Anne would love, and so she should read because Anne loves stories of like normal people falling in love with movie stars,
Mhm.
and so she would really like this whole series because it's like people meeting kind of famous people in at Comic Con, and then I don't know. In this one, in Bookish and the Beast, basically she's kind of this somewhat uh mousy girl. Uh she's kind of stuck because she had to pay for her mother's like hospital bills, and she's still kind of dealing with the grief of losing her mom. And anyway, and she ends up meeting this guy named Vance Raines, who is this this movie star. There's all this paparazzi and everything like that. And she ends up having to work for him because she accidentally destroys a rare book. And so then they're kind of in close proximity. They don't get along at first, that whole kind of thing. And it's cute. It's fun. Like I said, this whole series, I think, are well done. The Once Upon a Con is the name of the series.
That is so cute. That's
You should
so
check it
cute.
out. Yeah, they're fun. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about just some of my favorite books, and I'll just go real quick. But I love The Book Thief by Marcus Zussek. That is, if people ask me what's my favorite, certainly modern novel, that is my favorite. I can't think of any other book where I have been more just blown away by every single character. I felt an attachment to every character. Like even a character we only see for, one scene, I still loved that character. I think it's just such a rich book in that sense, and it's so creative. It's about this girl in Germany in World War II, and there's this. She's sent to live with these people to protect her, and she uh, the story is told by Death. Death is the narrator of the story, so there's definitely like a little bit of magical realism, and then it's also sort of told through the books that she gets. Some of them she steals along the way, and I I loved the characters, all the characters. Liesel is the main character, and then she has a really good friend named Rudy, and oh, you grow to just love Rudy so much. And I I've read this book many times. I just absolutely love it. I think it is perfect. So if you haven't, it does have some darkness to it. It's obviously, World War II, so it has some really sad things. But I just think it has such humanity. It's and I'm just sobbing every time I read it. But in my opinion, in a good way, because I'm so attached to the characters and I love the characters so much. So yeah, I think it's so good. Another one I'll talk about, which everybody loves this book, but it is one of my favorites, is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. And I think that this is just such a wonderful book as far as the characters. Atticus is probably the most noble character that has ever been written. You just love him so much, and he's such an honorable, good man who is fighting a fight he's going to lose, and yet he fights it anyway. And I think that's what makes his character so, uh, so perfect, so wonderful. Like, not perfect in a he's a perfect person, perfect in the sense of just such a well written character that we all are just rooting for. And when you fight the fight that you're going to lose, that is just such an honorable an honorable person. And it can be quite charming too, with the adventures of Scout, and you have this sort of child's uh, view into the story that I think makes it uh, more kind of palatable, approachable. But I mean, I don't need to sell people on To Kill a Mockingbird. Everybody loves To Kill a Mockingbird, but it's one of my favorites. I think it is a perfect novel.
Mhm.
It is so well written, and you can understand why she didn't really ever write anything else, because like, what else? How are you going to top To Kill a
Yeah.
Mockingbird?
Right, right.
But, those are two of my favorites. Of uh, those are two of my favorite books that I've ever read. So I thought I'd share that with the audience today. Have you
Yeah.
read those books?
I haven't.
Oh, you never read To Kill a Mockingbird, huh?
I
You
have
didn't have to
not
read it in
read it.
school?
No. I tell
Interesting.
people all the time, like, I don't know, but I went to school in Memphis, and I'm not trying to shade the Memphis City school system, but at the time, I mean, I we read whatever that book was that's like all about Greek mythology. We read that in like ninth grade. And the next thing I remember reading was senior year, which I had moved to Mississippi at that point, and we read Beowulf. So between
Mm.
ninth and 12th grade, who knows? We didn't read anything.
That's funny. Well, you should definitely read To Kill a Mockingbird, and maybe we'll have to talk about that one of these days. But
Yeah.
it's so good. And basically, Atticus in these the novel is narrated by Scout, who's a little girl, and she kind of getting into trouble. And her father is a lawyer,
Hmm.
and he takes a case of a black man who is accused of raping a woman, and he knows basically that the jury is going to find his client guilty because of the era and that they're in. But he takes the case anyway because he believes that he believes that the evidence is not there, and he believes in fighting for what is right. And the whole idea of like, don't kill a mockingbird is that uh, is kind of is about standing up for something when it's a lost cause. And so it's just such a beautifully written novel, and it's I don't know, it's definitely one of the best books ever written. So I highly recommend it. The movie is excellent as well, with Gregory Peck. I mean, he's basically a everything you could want in an Atticus. And so I highly recommend it. And The Book Thief. I mean, some people with death as the narrator it'll be a little too dark for them, but I just I loved it. And there's times when there's like a book within a book, and Lisa will be reading a book that is written by one of the other characters that's being hidden, uh, and uh, and so you have that kind of element. And there's like, I don't know, it's just so creative, so different, but so much humanity. And I just love the characters so much. And the movie there's a movie of it, but I really think it's like an unfilmable novel, because like I said, it goes books within books, and it's got death as the narrator. But they did it the best they could. It was
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend both those. So if you ever get a chance.
Yeah.
to read them. So there we go. We did it.
We did it. Happy
let
October, everybody.
Yeah, let us know what you think of these different books, and if you've gotten to read Christmas on Christmas Avenue, what you thought. And we are going to be reading for next month the another Hallmark book. It's the Mistletoe and Juno. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, I think Mistletoe and Juno by
Yeah.
Dahlia Rose.
Yeah. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So let us know what you've been reading, and we would love to hear in the comment section. And Bree, how can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Falling for Romance. And I'm also on Twitter now, but I don't know my Twitter at Bree Hill XO, I think.
That sounds
Just
right.
check out the Hallmarkies podcast Twitter and you'll probably see that I've retweeted something or something. I've commented on
Yeah.
something.
Bree Hill XO. You got
That's
it.
me.
Yeah. We'll have all that in and check out your podcast.
Yes, I also do a podcast. I'm half of the Categorically Romance podcast where we talk about category romance.
Yeah. Yeah. Y'all got to check it out. It's really good. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So please check that out. I would really appreciate it. And also on Goodreads. We're both on Goodreads. So check that out. And make sure you're following the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all over social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. We really appreciate that. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group and merch store. So all those links will be in the description. And thanks so much, Bree. It's always so much fun to get to talk about books with you. I look forward to it
Yes.
every month. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.